Rebellious Studio presents the Mind Body Podcast with your host, Maria Angelova. Hi, Rebels. Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And today we have a special treat all the way from Italy, Robert Pardi. And Robert, I've already told you if I call you Roberto, that just feels very right because you're in Italy. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Maria. And please call me Roberto if you want, because I absolutely love it. Even though I am a New Yorker, right? I was born in New York, but I live here now. And I'm looking so forward to this because I love the whole idea, like living a fulfilled life and all of that. So, yep.
Yes, me too. And so Robert is the founder of Possibility in Action, which you guys already know why he's here, right? Obviously a rebellious soul. And when I read Robert's story, I was like, wow, it is so relatable and so inspiring. And of course, we had to get him on the Mind Body podcast. So without further ado, Robert, let's start by telling us 3 words and a little bit of a backstory of who Robert is.
Okay, so Robert is someone that loves change, is curious, and I would say that the other thing is as well is I'm someone that just believes in complete possibility. So there you go.
Why do you love change, Robert?
Why do I love change? So, you know what? If change didn't exist, and let's use the word impermanence, because that's really what this is all about, right? And that's part of sort of who I am, what my philosophy is. We couldn't learn anything new, see anything new, do anything new. I mean, change, especially when we institute it, feels great. Then other times when change happens and it's not what we wanted, it feels horrible. But there's still always opportunity.
Yes, there is always opportunity. And I always tell my clients, sometimes opportunity is dressed as misguised, right? It's dressed as somebody that we don't want it to be. And that's okay. There is a reason. Just this morning, I was having a conversation with a dear client, and we were talking about that. And she was feeling discouraged, and she was dreaming in the context of a box. And I was like, no, the possibilities out there, right? The possibilities, whatever you want it to be, we just tend to box ourselves. So let's talk about that, Robert, because that's like the core of what you do. Possibility, and another very key word, action.
Yes.
Because the possibility is always there, but without action, there is no fulfillment.
There's nothing. It all remains in the land of wishing. And so when you asked me the 3 words, right, I could have said possibility, action, but that's already my brand. So outside the box. And let me go back to what you said as well. Sometimes, opportunity is disguised as something really horrible, right? So life shifts back and forth, things happen and so forth. So we can either, if we're looking in the box, right, we're just seeing all these pieces. But if we shake everything out of the box and let it fall to the floor, we can see how we can move the pieces around and build a beautiful mosaic, create a new puzzle, stack them all together. That's the power of outside the box. That's what I've done with my life. So, my story a little bit, that I was married to an amazing woman who unfortunately passed away at a very young age with metastatic breast cancer, and caused me to reimagine my whole life. Reimagining doesn't take place in the box. You have to dump all the pieces out.
Yeah. Where did life take you after that? Because it is so easy to just say, well, this happened to me, and become victim of the circumstances of what has happened. And your situation is a great example of something really difficult and life-changing that happened, right?
Yeah. So I love that you brought up the idea of a victim mentality, because it's easier to fall into that. There's less work that has to be done. People come and they say, oh, I'm so sorry for you, and you get some sort of reward from that. So I'm going to back us all the way up for a second so people understand. So I grew up with an abusive alcoholic dad, and that gave me a lot of life skills. So when first, as a child, I had to think about what would my life look like away from this man. How can I do that? So that's where action comes into place. I've always been this person of action. So my wife, I meet her, amazing relationship. At the height of everything, she's diagnosed with late stage breast cancer, becomes the founding director of palliative care at New York Hospital, by the way, while she had metastatic breast cancer. So, but I realized I was in finance at that time. I realized after she died that who I missed about me was the guy that supported her. And I'm like, wow, supporting someone is life coaching. I'm going to change my career. And here's the thing. The key question was not what if I fail, or sitting in the, oh, these things happened to me and look how horrible my life was. I said, you know what? I'm going to take a different perspective here. What's the most amazing story that could come from this? I was looking at all this rubble and I'm like, you know, what mosaic can I build out of this? And so it took me to, okay, I'm going to change careers and become a life coach. The other dream that popped up from since I was a kid, because I'm an Italian American, was to live in Italy. And in the back of my mind, there was the voice that was going, but Robert, you don't speak Italian. Robert, you don't have a job. Robert, you don't know anyone. Robert, you don't have a place to live. And then there was the other voice that was, this would be so cool. And I'm like, I'm going to go with that voice. And so I moved to Italy and I went to life coaching school. And now I live in a tiny little town of 900 people. It's actually where some of my family came from. I'm mostly Sicilian, but this is in Abruzzo. And yeah, I couldn't imagine having not taken this chance, because what happens, right? You look back and regret.
And I think something very key into the story that you are sharing is choice, right? You made a choice to raise from the rebel and get out of that victimhood mentality. And even though there was discomfort, you know, that's something so funny. Again, conversation with the client just this morning, when you have that voice in the background of like, move to Italy, and the voice of reason is going, are you crazy? You've got nothing there. You don't speak the language. Where are you going? But if there is that nudging sensation, that feeling that says, give this a try, like, why do we just ignore that? That's like our intuition. And I can so relate to that, Robert, because I spent 20 years in corporate when I had that background noise saying, just go. But it was like corporate, successful finance job, right? You come from that work, teach fitness, right? And finally, that voice got sold. Well, I was like, are we going to do something about this? To where I was like, maybe there is some legit, but it's scary, right? Because it's outside the comfort zone. And to what you said, you were hearing from people, you're getting condolences, and you felt validated for, yeah, I should feel bad. Something really bad happened to me. So it would have been easy to just stay in the situation.
Yeah. And you know what you just talked about. So also, me, finance guy, ex-investment banker. I was living in Dubai, right? And so my wife's journey with breast cancer was an 11-year journey. So there was no money left when she passed away. In fact, there was lots of debt. But what I realized is it's never about money. It's about mindset. And so when I showed up in Italy, I was teaching English for $8 an hour. I'm a Columbia MBA graduate, right? And here it was $8 an hour. My niece and nephew making more money than me in McDonald's. But it was because I was making the investment to build that new life. And so these two voices, right? You got there and you're saying, no, voice of reason, stay with the money and everything else. And the other voice is saying, no, go on that adventure. It's all, what story do you want to look back on? The day that we're in our deathbed, do we want to say, oh, yes, I listened to that voice of reason, or wow, I took a chance, and whether it works or not is a different story. Right? It's the chance. It's making the conscious choice, like you said.
Yeah, and I always say, if you don't take a chance, your probability of success is 0, right? If you take a chance, you have a chance of succeeding. And you said something else that made me think, and of course I lost my train of thought, but talked about finance. Well, I lost my train of thought. So, oh yes.
But you know what? Okay, go ahead. You found it.
So
Okay.
I was going to say, we also defined, you brought up money, right? Because money is usually part of the equation of like, I can't let go. There's no security, like I don't have savings and all that. And I get it. We all go through that. And I think that also ties to mindset. How do we define success? So yes, I can go to Italy, live the life of my dreams, making $8 an hour and be fine and be happy. Versus I can be on Wall Street making gazillions of dollars and be depressed, very highly stressed and having no life. So, and, it's a personal choice. Neither one is wrong, nor one is right? It's what works for you and what makes you happy. But we get so tied to, again, boxing success. What does success look like? And we tie to titles and money and yeah. So
well, two great things right there. One, like you said, it is, it's not one size fits all. So the Wall Street job might be good for somebody. The, working in a charity might be good for somebody else. First, the question is, did you make the choice consciously, or did you just follow something, right? The second thing about success, and I think this is what's so amazing, because for me, success would not be making the most out of life. Success to me is expressing myself and trying to build this great story. That's success. It's not getting to the story. It's the process of building it.
100%.
And wow, that's just so empowering. I mean, imagine taking a big block of marble and each day you're chipping away at it, and then it just becomes something beautiful. Now, we might not finish it because unfortunately that's the way life is, right? Like, one day to the next, my wife was here and then she was gone. But the whole arc was each day chipping away at building your dream. And that is the dream. If you think about it, you pull it back to building your dream is actually the dream.
100%. And that's another fantastic point, Robert, that we forget to enjoy the moment and forget to enjoy the chipping and that next step, because we're so tied to the outcome, attached to the outcome that's coming, that we can't enjoy the journey. And guess what? Like in my case, I opened a fitness studio. I never thought I was going to do mindset. I never thought I was going to get into the energy. Like my life now is so different. I couldn't even imagine my life the way it is now. But why is my life here? Because I let life take me through the steps. And I listened when that voice, even though when it was scary, right? When I had to make choices that were unpopular. And step by step, you also learn to trust yourself, like, wow, check this out, this worked out. So you try and you're like, okay, not exactly how I envisioned it, but there's a reason for it, right? The more you get into this journey, the more you start trusting yourself. The more you start trusting that things will go exactly as they need to. And, they don't always go the way you want to. And I say you have a day of pity party and then you rise yourself up again.
Well, the whole thing about trust, self-trust is so critical. And I would say what you learned is what I learned. And, we're not going to get it 100% right all the time. There is going to be that moment it's all going to fall apart. And whether or not you have a pity party, whatever the case is, but if you learn to trust that you know how to course correct, and you can say, all right, this didn't work, I'm going to move a little bit in this direction, but you're always going towards the horizon. Think about it. When you're driving, like you talked about the horizon, the big goal, if you drive and spend all your time looking at the horizon, you're going to rear end somebody. But you also can't be driving your car looking in the rear view mirror. You have to stay present with where you are, and slowly, 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 you get to that horizon. But it's all about that continual movement. Like you said, those small steps and everything else. That's why we're so aligned. Like when I read your work and stuff like that, I'm like, wow, we're talking the same language here, because constructing our life is not linear. Life is not linear. It's, and one thing you said, which is so critical, the choices that people don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And that's also very hard when you set out saying, you know what, I'm writing my story, I'm constructing my life, I'm living the way I want to live. And then you have people saying you're making a mistake, or you have people saying, but wait a minute, we carpool every day. What's going to happen to me? you know, it's so intertwined, but at the end of, and so it might feel like loss because all of a sudden some of your tribe is falling away. I had my friends, saying to me, what are you doing? You're moving to Italy. You had an investment banking job. You're living in Dubai. You're giving up all that money. And then, hey, we're going to go to the Maldives next year. You coming with us? No, I'm not. I'm making $8 an hour teaching English. I'm not going to the Maldives. I'm telling you right now. So, and then they're like, oh, well, you can't be part of us in a way, or, there's all this weird thing. So those choices, when we sit in conscious choices, there are ripple effects, but you also learn who really is supporting you.
You know what, 100%. And I think that's very important to talk about because I hear it very frequently for like starting entrepreneurs. And they say, I feel very lonely. And I can 100% relate to that because yes, your cycle of people, the circle of people around you changes. And you realize that that's okay, right? You have been friends for a reason and for a season and no bad feelings, right? You're just moving on and there should not be any guilt or, you need to set up the boundaries to establishing and living the life that you want because to the point you made earlier, you don't know how much you've got, how much time you've got. All you is today.
Yeah, exactly. It's today. You don't know how much time you have. You're not here to live somebody else's life. You don't want to sit on that deathbed, thinking about, I could have done this, I could have done that, right? So all of that is so, so important. And it's not to say that once you start off as an entrepreneur or chasing whatever dream, you're going to lose the people around you. But there is a lot of resistance because we're also playing part in their story. Like when my wife died and I decided I was going to, go move to Italy and everything like that, I had people around me that wanted to take care of me. They needed me to be broken so they felt good. Nothing wrong, but the dynamic was, no, that's not who I am, who I want to be. We do. You said, for a season, we outgrow ourselves. That's what evolution is, right? And we might outgrow the people around us. But the question is, the direction you're going in, does it excite you more than it makes you afraid?
I have a very similar sign in the studio that says kind of the same thing. Is your
Cool.
desire for success greater than your fear of failure? Right there.
There you go.
Exactly right. You nailed it. And you know what? I think to just add to that, are you staying true to yourself? To who you really are versus who you should be or who others think should be. And Robert, one other thing I want to touch on, I have a feeling we can talk for hours and hours and hours. Let's talk about the importance of small steps, because what I frequently see in people is they make a step, it doesn't work the way they want it to work or the way they envisioned, right? They're attached to the outcome. They say, well, that doesn't work, so let me just go back to what I know. And I always say small but consistent steps in the same direction. So tell me, what do you think on that topic?
Okay, well, you use the key word consistent, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's just bring it back to that person that says, oh, it didn't work. I'm going to go back to what I know. What you know, everyone listening to this, the life you have right now, you have practiced day after day by small steps. You've just forgotten it. But where you are just a combination of small steps. So if you're going to set out in a new direction, one small step, two small steps, it's not going to feel like things are really changing. But here's the key. So like you said, consistent, but are you celebrating the step? Maybe the step didn't work out. You know what? Who really cares? You took the step. That's the celebration. That's the celebration. Now you're going to figure out what step you learned something. That step didn't work. Okay. So now I have evidence of what works and what doesn't work. I'm going to add another step, but I'm moving forward. Not moving backwards and that's that whole comfort zone thing, right? Being in the box.
Yep.
Being in the box gets really, really boring. Feels safe. But then, unfortunately, and I say this so often, It sounds horrible. I know it sounds horrible, but we all have a terminal disease because this train is going to stop at some terminal that we don't know.
Yeah.
And so therefore, that box, when you get a call from somebody, a doctor's prescription or something, now you don't want to be in the box anymore. Let's not wait till that point. Close your eyes. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What steps do you need to do? Consistency, small. The money thing, money is important. Of course it's important. We all have to pay our bills. We all have obligations. Here's a term I use all the time. This is the term I use. Once you know the life you want, reverse engineer and right size your life. Maybe you're not going to be buying Starbucks every day. Okay. But that money is going to go to something else. That's building a future. That's not a sacrifice. That's an investment in the future.
100%. And, I always say you will find time and money for whatever you prioritize. So if growth or moving to Italy or whatever your thing is, that's what you're going to prioritize. And another thing is, you mentioned it twice, and it's so important, is what do you want? I think frequently we know we want something different, but we don't really know what we want. So when we're not clear on what we want, we don't have a direction. Like, I just know it feels off, but I don't know what's off. So what do you want? I ask that to every single client, and I get a lot of, I don't know. Or I get, well, this is what I want, but let me tell you why it's not possible. So that mindset thing, it's a real thing.
It's such a real thing. And the whole idea of when there is discomfort and you want something else and you don't know what it is, we as adults think we're supposed to figure it all out. Well, you know what I want, and I can detail it to the last little thing. Everything that we have in our life started with some sort of dream, wish, imagination. So you know what? Stop being an adult for a second. Allow yourself to daydream. It's non-threatening. Just think about all these things. What would it be like if? What would it be like if I had, if I could? Start, and then all of a sudden you go, you know what? That feels really good. Why does that feel good? Next thing you know, you might find something. I was given, let's say, the gift of having to go through grief. And in grief, I had to let go of the expectations of what my life was supposed to be, because it wasn't there anymore. Yeah. And that allowed me the space to daydream and say, okay, well, if I'm starting all over again, what would it look like? And then it made me start to think about, and what was it I really liked over all these years with my wife? Wow, I like supporting her. Okay, the dream is starting to come together. When I showed up in Italy, did I really have a plan? I had an idea, and I knew I could course correct, and I was willing to make the investments. I didn't have something perfect. I could spend my whole life trying to get that plan perfect.
And and that's exactly right. We get stuck on the how am I going to do that? And sometimes it goes back to the trust that the right resources, the right way is going to come to you. And again, you have to know what you want. You have to be consistently moving step by step into that direction. And something else important, you said, you phrased it beautifully. I was gifted to change my journey through grief. Is that what you said, Robert?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, once again, it was not the ideal way to course correct, right? But that's was your journey. And I see that in a lot of people, something drastic happens to where it creates that urgency of, wow, what's next?
Yeah.
Life is only this long, and what am I going to do with my life?
That's that whole idea of when I was talking earlier that, we all have this terminal disease type thing is, if you get a note from the doctor telling you that, time is running out, or imagine you got a note from the doctor saying, you know what, if you don't add more joy into your life, you're going to die next year. You'd find time for joy. You'd find time for play. You'd find time for exercise. You'd find the time because it's always there. It's just breaking out of the complacency of the way we've been living. Everything we're doing is habitual. So that's why these types of conversations, they really energize me, because I've seen firsthand, even my wife, metastatic breast cancer, diagnosed on her 31st birthday, finished an MD, finished a PhD, became the founding director of palliative care at New York Hospital, having chemotherapy every other Friday for 11 years. And we lived an amazing life together, fun, laughing, joyful, playing with our dog, So I saw it is, like you said, it's mindset, it's intention, it's conscious choices. It's not easy because you have to build those muscles. Look at you, think about the gym, right?
Mhm.
It's not you lift the weight one day and everything is done. It's not that you pick up a block of marble, you hit it with the chisel and the sculpture pops out. It doesn't happen that way.
That goes back to our modern day expectation of instant gratification, right? I want it today. And I mean, it's the same thing in the wellness world, right? People come, I've had this pain. So how long do you think it's going to get resolved? So how old are you? How long have you had this habit? Right? But it's going to take us a sec to reverse those habits and create better ones.
Yeah.
But we're so used to, like, if it doesn't work right now, well, then I don't know, maybe it's not worth it. And I feel the same way like you. I get so energized and pumped up when I have these conversations and connect with people such as yourself, because it fuels me. And it's such a wonderful affirmation when you hear, I mean, we're, like you said, we're speaking exactly the same language.
Yeah. We certainly are. And the thing is as well, like you and I, we're sharing ideas with other people, and there's no comparison of anything here, right? And that's the other thing that has just twisted the way we live in the world today. Everyone is comparing themselves to everybody else and what they have, what I don't have. But you know what, when you listen to these things, and if you find nuggets that inspire you and it's admiration, that's where you grow. Those are the tools for growth. But the whole, hey, I'm the generation where there wasn't even a remote control. You had to go and you had to turn the dial on the TV. So there you go.
Both on the channel, yes. And there were two channels.
Yeah, and so you learned how to wait for the program to start. And it wasn't all this. I joke about that, but it is in a way, again, going back to we've forgotten, we have practiced the life we're living.
Yeah.
And that's a long period of time. So it's not going to change overnight if you want it to change.
And I was about to ask you, would share with us something inspirational. That's kind of cool. Would you like to share anything else? That was.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. I definitely, I'll share a quote from one of my books, and it's based on the way my wife and I lived, because we believed that adversity should not be the dominant color on the canvas of your life, but it should be an accent color for joy or whatever else you want. It's an accent color. Adversity is not the color you should live. But what that taught us is that we can only live an extraordinary life when we value the ordinary moments. Our days are made up of ordinary moments, and we need to value them.
100%. And I'll tell you, I have become personally so intentional to do that, because it's easy to get caught up of where you want to go and why you're not getting there fast enough.
Yep.
And just reminding myself of all of the blessings and sending gratitude for every single moment that I'm here, that I'm breathing, living, right? Heart beating.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And because again, we just don't know.
Yeah. All right, Robert, what's your definition of rebellious?
Wow. So rebellious to me is breaking out of a mold that somebody else has told you should be. So you, at the end of the day, I mean, rebel, sometimes people get, oh, it's such a strong word. You are here to shine your light. That is it. So break out of whatever shell somewhere along the line someone has told you to have, and shine your light and be you, because we're waiting for that. Like, we're all individual and unique for a reason. And, you know, true diversity is all in our minds. It's our experiences. It's so funny. I joke about this, but in a way, I really do believe it. We live on the same planet. We don't live in the same world, because all your experiences and the way you think, there's a lot of things that I could never know, right? So, but yeah, so rebellious for me is to break out and say, here I am.
I like that very much. I like, and I'm thinking you definitely are Italian. You have all these references to sculptures and art.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. You know, one of the reasons I'm actually in Italy is because I love Stoicism. And so I wanted to, when I first moved to Italy, I moved to Rome and, you know, Marcus Aurelius and thinking about all that stuff. But yes, mosaics and art and sculptures I'm a big metaphor person.
I like that. Robert, where can people follow you, follow your story, get your books, like give us website, social media, and of course we'll post all of that. Do you want to share anything here?
Well, yeah, actually, the best thing to do is to go to my website, which is robertpardi.com. Okay. My books are listed there. And also, I really would encourage people, if they want to reach out to me, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, I mean, reach out, you know, and it's for nothing else, you know, just getting to know each other.
Yeah, I love it. I love how, you know, social media has made it possible for us to connect with people all around the world, like-minded people all around the world, and building a global tribe. So, well, Robert, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for saying yes to being here with us. This was great fun for me. Do hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know if you have any questions. And of course, remember, you have to make it a rebellious day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert.
You're most welcome. Ciao.
Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.